etc.
There's questions out there.
Please.
Get him the microphone. Where's the mic? Just stand up and yell. Speak.
Hi, I have a question.
Oh.
So my question is primarily directed at Danielle, but also for the panel, about the lack of diversity in the media environment for both reviewing and writing about art. In these larger discussions regarding freelancing, and also not just who is featured, but who is writing about the art itself. And I was really curious in all of, you alluded to this idea of everyone in it together or everyone being friends, but I think it's particularly difficult if you are a minority or a non-American or a foreign publication covering contemporary art and things like art auctions. And I was really curious about your thoughts about this as someone who works for Art News, who is a person of color, because I feel like this is a challenge. It's like an elephant in the room regarding discussions about covering something like the Venice Biennale, which is inherently about the diaspora, but the number of people both reporting on it and who are critically reviewing it, there are very few of them, especially in Europe and North America, who are people of color.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I kind of do feel I wanted a chance to respond to something Mary Louise and Jerry said, which about the question of diverse viewpoints. And my background, before I began writing more about art, I was working with photojournalists. And so I was developing exhibitions for journalists around the world with the Magnum Photos agency, right as the media was beginning to collapse. So I developed the knowledge of everything from pictures from the Sino-Japanese War to, post-Soviet satellite states, all of this sort of information about the world. I'm mostly asked to write about Black women artists. So I am sensitive to the idea that, yes, there's a range of positions, but I'm also aware that this could very quickly turn into something where I'm put in my corner and I'm put in my place. And I'm also aware that when we say something that there is such a thing as Black aesthetics, and what I hope to point out with what I showed is, like, a lot of those Black aesthetics come from Life magazine and Alfred Eisenstadt and white photographers, right, that are being emulated in the work of the Dean Collection, for example. So the essentializing, to me, there's a fine line between saying, yes, I have a range of perspectives. I also have a degree in Africana Studies, which is humanities of the African diaspora. I watched films by African filmmakers and read African literature. That's what qualifies me to write about some of the things I write about, not the fact that I'm Black. So I'm troubled because it is a very, very dangerous line, and I consider it part of almost what I talk about epistemological crisis. Who's assumed to know what? So the implication is that I am not assumed to have other kinds of knowledges if I'm an expert in this one thing. Or if I'm asked, some of this is also about the economics, right? There's zillions of freelancers. It's actually easier if you go to your one person for this and your other person for that, right? In terms of, and I'll also say some people are fine with that. But, my world, my actual world, and the art that I'm around is very, very mixed. My neighbor is here, fantastic artist, who Blanka, yes, and
Blanka.
Blanka. A lot of Blanka's work. Blanka runs a great apartment gallery next door to me. A lot of her work is not exclusively, but has looked at the Mexican American experience. Some of it's deeply inspiring to me. Am I not allowed to write about that because I don't come from that community? Like, what are we doing when we sort of say we need one person for every box? Not every culture is represented by a critic or an artist from that background to have a sufficient knowledge to write about them.